Welcome. This is Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy bringing you another Star Citizen video. And this is a podcast I did with Badlands Nation Radio. Check it out. I hope you like it.
Welcome to the Badlands Nation Radio Podcast. I'm your host, AlphaKiloFive, and today I'm joined by Mud Dog. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. Thank you kindly. I appreciate it. Now, for our listeners out there, I know you've kind of grown accustomed to that smooth baritone that is Titan. Unfortunately, he's not here right now, so I'll be filling in as a temporary host. But I'd like to shine the spotlight more back on you, Mud Dog. I got a couple questions for you. We generally have a little tradition where we kind of ask a couple of questions to get to know. We really like to get to know the guy behind the voice, if that kind of makes sense. So, what's the meaning of your screen name or your handle? Kind of where does it come from? Your favorite adult beverage and your favorite gaming memory. Feel free to take these in any order. Fire at will, whatever you like.
Yeah, let's start off with the screen name, because that may be interesting. Some people, it may not be to others. So, Mud Dog. I have had Mud Dog for many, many years. We're talking, pretty much since high school. And it actually comes from high school. We were talking a little bit before the podcast. I grew up playing soccer. That was my dream, my passion, my love. And I continued all the way up until last year. So I had literally 38 years, 39 years of playing soccer. And I got the screen name because our soccer team, our high school actuals, I guess you could say, mascot was a pirate. But the soccer team got the moniker Mud Dog. One year when it was particularly nasty outside after a snow and a rain, and there was plenty of mud on the field. We practiced rain, sleet, snow. It didn't matter. We were kind of wild men in a way. We were doing, belly slides and that sort of thing, bare-chested on the muddy, snowy fields. And that was one of the days that the local newspaper came and was writing an article on us. And they kind of gave the nickname to the program Mud Dog because they saw us, flopping around in the mud all over the place. So that moniker actually stuck with the team for decades. And I was part of, one of those groups that came through. And it just, nobody had that screen name back then. And I was diehard Mud Dog just as much as any of the other guys. So I picked up on it, and I used it as a screen name, and have been using it pretty much ever since the late 90s. So I've had it a long time. As far as, alcoholic beverage or adult beverage, I don't drink. I've never really acquired the taste for it. I have two parents that were alcoholics, and they actually never did they tell me not to drink. They didn't encourage it, but they didn't discourage it either. They said if I did choose to drink, that I should do it responsibly, at home or at somebody's house where I wasn't going anywhere. And I've tried things throughout the years. I just, for some reason, alcohol, I can taste it, and it just doesn't agree with my palate, I guess you could say.
What would make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other question?
No problem. What's your
favorite gaming
memory? Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what? I played games ever since I was younger, and I think when Battlefield 2142 came out back in the early 2000s, that whenever I was playing that game, and I ended up getting, I guess you could say, or accepted into an organization called Fifth Column. To me, that was a huge highlight, playing with those guys. You want to talk about disciplined elite groups in video games. That was definitely probably the most elite group I've ever played with, and the most dominant group I've ever played with in any one video game. If you got a squad of fifth guys on a Battlefield 2142 server, they were going to dominate, and they would single-handedly change the game that you were in in their favor. That was how dominant of a group those guys were, and so that's definitely, playing with those guys is definitely high up on my favorite gameplay memories. I got tons of them that I could go back to, but that's definitely way up there for me.
No, yeah, I totally get it. You never really forget your first org. As soon as you said that, I kind of got hit right in the feels like member berries, trying to think all the way back. And I do remember that. I want to say my first one goes all the way back to like Delta Force 2 or something like that. I remember the first time I get accepted to an org, I was like, oh, this is awesome. It was like mind meld. It was amazing. And with that being said, I definitely want to make sure you get the chance to kind of get your information out there about your organization. So you head up the Texas Space Navy.
I do. Yeah, actually, in Star Citizen, the actual org name is Texas, which is a little bit more broad ranging. But in recent history or recently, we've decided to just kind of remoniker to Texas Space Navy. So it's still Texas on the RSI website, but it's Texas Space Navy everywhere else. The idea behind that, or the lore behind that, is that Texas has been kind of on the rise again in the UEE. They're not real happy with being governed, so we've decided to set out for our own piece of the pie out in the galaxy, and they have sent the Texas Space Navy out as a first line to try to find a new home for everybody. And under the Texas Space Navy guides, you got all your forms of industry. So they're responsible for, more or less being independent from Texas until there's a new home found.
Yeah, that's an awesome kind of story for the listeners. You may not know my background. I'm actually a born and raised Texas. I was born out in the sticks. I'm talking deep East Texas. And then I actually being raised down in the Galveston Bay area. So I'm a Texan through and through. And I think that's what really kind of first attracted to this org. When I saw it, I started tracking the videos, and I saw not just your content, but the quality. I mean, it's fantastic, and it's consistent output.
Thank you.
And that's definitely what attracted me and a lot of the guys in our org. Many people in the Badlands Nation, both on the search and rescue and the defense and shipping, are Texans.
I really do appreciate that. Thank you very much. I do put a lot of time into trying to get these videos out. I wouldn't say it's the highest quality. If I had more time, I could put tons more quality into them. But I do try to pump them out, and I think that's one of the keys if you want to make it on YouTube, especially early on in a niche like Star Citizen. You have to figure out ways to get on the algorithm and stay on it. That's pretty much how my channel has grown to where it's at. It's not where I want it to be yet, but I feel like this year has been a really good year for the channel, and it's really taken off because of trying to be consistent on getting those videos out.
Man, you ain't kidding about the algorithm, especially the small niche of the Star Citizen. I've been very, very, very amateurly putting out videos. I can't stress that enough. Whenever I feel a new idea pop up, I'll work on it like casually for a month, and then I'll finally put one out. But I
did that for 2 years, man. 2 years. I've had this. I kind of toiled away, and I'd get a video out once a week or once a month, or it would be 2 or 3 months in between videos. And I'm like, man, I just don't have any viewers. What's the point of doing this? And, I did some reading and some research. And one of the things they said was to get a video out every day so you can, end up on that algorithm. Honestly, I started doing that December last year. And starting in January, I just started seeing new subscribers flood into the channel. It was absolutely crazy. This time last year, I had maybe 30 subscribers on my YouTube channel.
I'll say, yeah, no kidding. I want to say it was around April's when I first started seeing it, because I ride around the truck all day. So I was like, oh, let me listen to these videos. They're consistent, and sure enough, it's about the same time frame you said.
Yeah, it took off like crazy, and I'm still amazed by it, and I'm very humbled by it. I really do appreciate everybody that does tune in and watch those videos. And honestly, between my Patreon and my YouTube members and the revenue from ads and stuff, if I didn't have those things in July, August, September, I probably would have been in the negatives in my bank account. So it's very little money that I make off of it, but that money really has helped me in my personal life. So I can't say thank you enough to all those people who have tuned in, because it makes a huge difference. You just don't know how much of a difference it can make for somebody.
Yeah, that is true, and that is fantastic to hear. And that's what at first I was real reluctant to put the whole like and subscribe to my videos, because like, man, everybody says that, but then after a while I'm like, you know what, I get it. After you've been in for a little while, I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense. And it's not just for the financial other stuff. It's honestly the support, and that kind of harkens back to some time I spent in the military. What really helped you going, what I used to find is the troops were having trouble with PT. What I like to do is I like to let them lead PT. And the idea behind that is when you have people relying on you and following you, it gives you almost like this extra tank of motivation to kind of pull from. So when you do have those lists of subscribers, I'm not even at 30 yet. When you do have that list to pull from, you're like, oh man, I can't let them down. Let me try a little bit extra harder to put out that video. It's kind of like an extra tank to pull from.
Yeah, they're engaged. They're you're kind of giving a little ownership to them when you do that. And I've kind of started something like that in TexasSpaceNavy as well. I mean, you've seen in the past where I've had people submit videos and I try to splice those videos together. I may have 2, 3, 4 screens going at once for certain ops, which, I get that buy-in from those guys. I mean, Texas and TexasSpaceNavy is as much anybody else's as it is mine. And I want people to feel that way. Unfortunately, with the YouTube channel, it's harder to, engage people that way unless they're just, incredibly generous, so to speak. Because when you start making money off of the YouTube channel, then some people may be like, well, I supplied this kind of video, I should get this kind of money. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and
yeah.
and
Yep.
luckily, I have not faced that in our org. The guys are great, and people unselfishly, offer videos up all the time, and I thank them for that. Uh, Again, I think that they feel like they're being part of something, and I think that really, really, helps with the camaraderie and inside the org. Right now, I've got a commercial thing going for everybody in the org. They can choose to put together their own little commercial. Like, it's going to be anywhere between 30 seconds and a minute and a half, and it could be on anything in the verse. So I hope I get a lot of commercials from it. We'll have to see. The deadline's coming up, and I've only seen one that needs a little bit of editing. But I thought that would be a nice little challenge to put out there for them, and they can kind of have their little engagement, where something is completely and directly theirs within the YouTube channel too.
Yeah, it's very true. I just recently started kind of hanging out with their group a little bit. Shout out to Dex and K9 and some of the guys I've talked to. Great group of guys, very supportful. It's kind of like history repeats itself. I know it sounds kind of cliche, so bear with me, but it does feel Texas through and through. But yeah, speaking back to what you're talking about, the algorithm, and speaking of that, we got the big event coming up, the IAE 2950. So what is the new ship that you're most looking forward to? I mean, they're giving us a triple, but what are you most looking forward to?
I am looking forward to the RSI Perseus. That is definitely on the radar. That's something that I definitely want to get my hands on. Of course, I haven't seen exactly what the ship's going to have, but from everything that I've read and heard, that's a ship that I want really bad.
With it, so for some of the listeners who may not know, the scuttlebutt, or the rumor for it is especially kind of coinciding with the name of Slayer of Monsters. Not know how much stock you can put in that, though, is from what we understand, it may have a couple turrets, and it looks like they're slightly shielded from slanted plates. So where we have the Hammerhead as more of a picket ship or more of a anti-fighter deterrent, what we're hoping for, at least what I'm hoping for anyways, is that this ship is going to be more of a counter towards maybe other capital ships.
Right. Yeah, from what I hear, it's supposed to be pretty devastating broadside for capital ships. What all goes along with that, I don't know. Is it going to be a slow-moving target, to where it can equally get countered, or is it going to be, we don't even know what size guns the thing's going to sport, but it does sound interesting, and obviously that would be a force multiplier in any combat situation if you have a smaller ship that could come out and take out a cap ship from any enemy vessel or any enemy team. That's huge.
Yeah, and it's actually, I'm glad you mentioned that. That's one of the things I'm really hoping for. I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I'm hoping it does have a weakness. I absolutely loving ships that have weakness, especially capital ships, because that leans itself towards, organizations having a concept of operations for their fleet. They can't just spam all one type of ship and be like, oh yeah, it's well-rounded. No, you have to basically put certain ships in your fleet to cover other ships. Where some ships may be great against capital ships, they're going to have a huge weakness, like Star Wars level, where it got taken, a battle station got taken out by one little snub fighter. So you got to have ships in there to protect it. So that's what I'm really hoping.
I think I do believe that they put weaknesses on all the ships on purpose. I think that they design that in there. Now, whatever they are, we kind of have to figure out maybe. But I think all of those ships do have weaknesses, even the Javelin and the Idris. People think Idris, frigates are going to be kind of the end all be all for player characters, but you got to think about the other ships that are going to be out there. I mean, there's going to be a Bengal somewhere. There's going to be a Bengal carrier. There's going to be Vandal ships out there, capital ships that are going to be more than capable of taking out an Idris by themselves. So, I mean, will it be end all be all for an org? It might be, but if they're actually going into hotspots, you may need a few of them.
Yeah, and speaking of weaknesses and more rumors, so far it's looking like the Mercury Star Runner just chugs gas like an M1 Abrams. That's all I've heard.
I've seen and heard that too. Actually, the first one that I saw in the PTU was out of gas. I tried to fly it off a Microtech, and it was just sitting there like a rock on the ice.
It's a good way to sell Vulcans, though. It's like, hey, I know you like the Star Runner. How would you like a Vulcan to go with it?
Well, I do believe they're going to fix that issue. It shouldn't chug that kind of fuel. I think that's been an issue in the past with other ships as well, and they went back and they fixed it. I would not, guess that it wouldn't chug some gas, but that's a little extreme.
Yeah, I was having a conversation where I think, conceptually, it's because if you're running everything, because it's a ship that can do a lot of things, which is fantastic. However, the cost is if you're running all that kind of stuff, it's like opening 50 tabs on a laptop. It's going to start chugging away at it. So as long as you pick one dedicated thing, such as moving fast or hauling stuff or data running, it'll consume less gas. But also, I think the fuel tank thing, I think it's a security feature while they kind of release it to just a few people, in the PTU. That way you can't fly it everywhere. Someone can't steal it because you're not going to go very far.
That's definitely true. And since it was only in Evocati and some streamers' hands early on, that makes sense that they would probably want it to be parked somewhere where people can just go and, ogle it.
So another background question, especially about the IAE. A lot of us end up being fanboys of different companies. What expo, and not so much just the ships, but just the actual like expo and showroom and stuff like that. What company are you looking forward the most to?
I've been over the last year or 2 years, I've slowly grown to be a huge Drake fan. But as far as showroom stuff, as impressive as Drake can be, unless there's a Kraken on the showroom floor, it's not going to be that impressive. I am looking forward to Aegis more than anything because we have seen the Idris in a hangar on the showroom floor once before. And then back in May when we had the Fleet Week, we, of course, got the fly up close to Idris and a Javelin. So if they're able to put those down on the showroom floor and us actually walk, at least around the outside of it, that would be awesome. I would love it if they would let us actually walk in the thing and explore the inside. But Aegis is the one that I'm looking out for, because I think we may get another peek at the Idris like we did a couple of years ago at the IAE.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Even if they could just cut off one section, like a demo section, and kind of put it down like, hey, here's the firing range, or hey, here's the brig. And each year just kind of put out different modules would be pretty sweet. I love Drake. I'm not going to lie. I'm a huge fan of Drake. I used to be a big Reliant fan. I still like it. They did make the Tana pretty good. They gave us more missiles, but I can't get over the landing gear. My God, are those things terrible to land. So I've slowly come around to absolutely loving my cutlasses. And so
I only had one Reliant up until I guess it was maybe May or early last year because I wasn't a fan of the Reliant. They made some changes to where you could fly horizontally now. You could also, the Tana, they buffed the weapons on it, so it's actually formidable in combat. But the only Reliant I had was the news van version. That's the only ship I had in the fleet from that line of ships because I thought it would be cool to actually have a little news van from time to time and capture footage of races or pretty much anything, big space battles that I wasn't involved in. I thought that would be cool to use the news van to do different stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I saw that, and I always throw the picture around, especially on Spectrum. I'm not sure if you remember all the way back to Lost in Space, the one that came out when we were a little bit younger. I want to say like maybe 2001, 2003, maybe.
Yeah.
Where it had this little bubble fighters, but it had that awesome like shark mouth paint job.
Yeah.
It's very similar. I was like, man, if they put out that paint job, they start, because Reliants are almost like little freelancer misses. I mean, there's some serious missile boats. They got a lot of missiles on those things. It seems to be what Miss kind of goes
they
with.
need it. They need it.
That is true. Those wings pop off if you sneeze too hard. But yeah, I used to be a big fan, but like I said, I've slowly kind of moved over to Team Drake pretty hard. Definitely Drake and RSI. I'm still a pretty big RSI guy.
Yeah, I've always been an Origin guy, and I've kind of moved away from Origin a little bit. And it's mostly CIG's fault, I think. The 600i is not that impressive to me as far as the interior. Yeah, and the 890 jump, I like the interior of it, but obviously the usability of it right now in game it's almost pointless unless you're practicing, attack runs to take out the guys on the 890 jump mission. So it's just a pleasure boat, more so now than it will be even later in the game when you can actually use it for a job. But yeah, I've moved kind of away from Origin and more towards Drake. I've always been a fan of Anvil and Aegis, but yeah, those are probably my favorite ships or favorite ship manufacturers. Drake's probably in the lead at the moment out of all of them.
So has that favoritism carried over to your setup of your fleet? I was wondering if you don't mind talking about that a little bit about Texas and the fleet breakdown. Now I know you have it broken down in a pretty, common way. It makes sense as far as like a science division, industry division, security division. But can you talk about some of the ships that kind of make those up?
Yeah, sure. We have a massive fleet. We've got over 400 members in it, and even for a 400 member org, we have everything. The org is mostly, I wish I had it all sitting in front of me. I could tell you exactly what we had, but it's extensive.
Don't feel like you're gonna go into huge detail. No, just cover like some of your capital ships. Like I said, I particularly like the naming, but again, I'm a Texas myself, so I'm biased. And just kind of your concept of operations, like why you're kind of leaning that route.
Yeah, so like I said, like you were saying, we have the security division, which is going to be our military. Everybody that's going to be protecting others, even kind of like bounty hunters will fall under this division. And of course, the capital ship of the military side of Texas is going to be the TSN Texas. That's my Javelin. That's the largest player ownable ship in the game, and it's a destroyer. So I chose Texas, obviously, because Battleship Texas served in World War I and World War II as a dreadnought battleship, and it was able to survive both wars. It's got a very extensive history. I believe it was damaged in both World War I and World War II, and was able to limp back to port and get repaired, and still sits there in Galveston today. I think they actually had to do some repairs recently on it. I hope that thing stays around for years and years and years to come. It's awesome to go and actually be on that battleship and walk around that battleship. And I thought that the biggest ship that we're allowed to own should have the biggest name. And why not? TSN Texas. So I do have a backstory for all my capital ships and stuff on my website as well. I can go into some of that if you want to. It doesn't matter.
No, you're good. Just like one or two that's your favorite. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put links to all that in this video as well, so people can go and check it out.
Awesome.
And it's funny you mentioned names, because I think we were talking about this earlier. And for the life of me, I cannot think what it was. There was a very recent Star Citizen video that kind of put out that covered naming conventions, and that's one of the things we were worried about. Yeah, I saw you kind of popped in, popped out. I was just talking about there's a Star Citizen video that was put out that was covering naming conventions and saying you may be able to start locking in names for your ships.
Yeah, I've seen that too, and like we were talking about, they have some ships that you can already name, like the 600 Eyes. If you were to have bought both of those on concept, and you got a serialized number for them, that you are allowed to actually name them already in the game or on the website, I should say. I'm looking forward to being able to actually officially name my ships. I've got a handful of names already picked out. Hopefully, I don't have any problems procuring those names for those ships. I have a naming scheme for ships in my fleet. I don't know if other guys in the org want to follow the same naming conventions or not, but I thought it would be a great idea. Javelins, obviously, I chose Texas, but I didn't really have a specific naming convention for the Javelin, but something like the Idris, I felt like it would be great. Any kind of frigate to be named after Texas people in history. So like I have the TSN Chuck Norris and the TSN Sam Houston. Chuck Norris is the one with the it's my Idris-M that has the railgun on the front. So I felt like Chuck Norris was perfect name for that. Even though he's not a natural born Texan, he's lived here for many years, and people definitely associate him with Texas. And I'm a big fan of the Chuck Norrisisms that are out there. So I thought it was fitting for a ship that could hit so hard to be Chuck Norris.
Yeah, and going through history, you got to remember a lot of the defenders at Alamo and the
Yes.
Avengers at San Jacinto. A lot of them weren't, necessarily, really was no Texas other than the first 300 families. So a lot of them came from, Tennessee Volunteers, what have you. And shameless plug on Chuck Norris. He's actually from my career field in the military. He was Air Force Security Forces, military law enforcement, ground combat. So yeah, we're real familiar with him.
That is fantastic. Yeah, I love Texas history. I actually graduated with a history degree. Can't do a whole lot with that in real life, unfortunately, but it does give you all sorts of tidbits of information that you can use for things like this. Unfortunately, history is not something that a lot of people enjoyed in school. It seems like I think that's done intentionally because, well, we don't have to go all the way into all that, but yeah, I actually enjoyed history, and that's Texas history is definitely one of the things I enjoy because I'm 8th and 9th generation Texan. Some of my family was in those early 300 families that came and settled in Texas. I even have Native American roots that go way back in this state as well. So, I feel like Texas is a part of me, and I'm a part of Texas, and I really don't want to live anywhere else in this world.
Yeah, that's awesome. My family, we're about third generation, but we've always lived in Texas, and every generation served in the military, including my brother, who was in the Texas National Guard after he did his time active duty. And so we kind of like earned our place as Texas, and then always kind of pursued the military route. And that's one thing I noticed about your org is it really does kind of follow through the idea of Texas. It's always kind of been, that's why I wanted to talk about the very independent state. It's always had that very, not in a lot of people think it's a negative way, not at all. It's a very like, hey, we take care of ourselves so that we can help take care of other people. But they're always able to kind of handle their own. I think that kind of carries through.
I think that's part of that Texas mentality, man. If you're from here, that's just kind of the mentality that you grow up with, generally speaking. We still have kind of a pioneering idea about us where you can take care of your own stuff, take care of yourself. but you're still friendly with your neighbors. You know what I mean? You can help them too. They're going to
Yeah,
help you. You're going to, so it's, I don't know how to, I guess, put it into words what Texas really is. And I think a lot of people that come visit here, they say, well, you're such a friendly state. Everybody's so friendly. And that's just part of it. It's hard to really put a finger on it or put words to what Texas really is, but it's definitely, there's a mentality about it. There's definitely a way of life here that that people of Texas can relate to, that they understand. That we understand one another.
right. I'm sure there's plenty of listeners like, oh, listen, these two Texans go back and forth. But no, it's funny to see it also kind of leak over into science fiction, not just with The Expanse. When you saw them kind of colonize Mars, it was a mixture of Cantonese, Chinese, and Texans. It was kind of a cool mix. But,
Yeah.
With CIG kind of setting up a shop in Texas, granted in Austin, which is kind of like the new California Republic, but
Right.
but hopefully he gets some of that kind of Texas feel in there. But speaking with that and with that more pioneer spirit, with your fleet layout, are you gonna be leaning more, because you have the bodies, are you gonna be leaning more towards players, or are you gonna be using NPCs or blades?
Honestly, for my ships, at least early on when I first started building the fleet, I was all about having NPCs and blades. I read about it. I saw all the things they were putting out about it, and I was like, well, I want to fill out my ships with NPCs. I want to have some AI blades to fill in the places here and there. That was my goal, because I up until recently, I was a strong believer in everybody's going to want to fly their own ship. Everybody's going to want to be their own pilot. They're going to want to be in command of their ship. And, I found out recently that some people don't. Some people want to be when they want to play a role on somebody else's ship. So, that's fine. And I will probably have several ships that are definitely human run. It makes sense for some of the bigger capital ships for you to have a bunch of humans on there. They're going to be able to do a better job than AI, generally speaking. But when I first set out, I wanted to have a bunch of NPCs and blades. I'm still planning on having that, because there may be a time that I want to take out an Idris or a Javelin, and I don't have available personnel with me, or maybe I'm docked somewhere where I don't have the personnel there, and they don't want to they don't want to stop what they're doing to come help me get the ship going. So I think it's perfect situation to have those AI to help you out.
And yeah, I was thinking kind of a similar way for the Badlands Search and Rescue. So I've kind of broken it down. You have three different kind of roles you can fill. You can either be a pilot, you can be, a crew member, or one of our rescue techs. And the interesting thing is you don't necessarily have to own your own ship to be a pilot. There'll be enough ships in the fleet you can fly, or if you happen to have one of the ships, you can do it that way. But I think we're always going to need crew members, just for the nature of the organization. NPCs and blades, they're going to be great for certain things, particularly without getting too much into it. Like with our fleet, we use a lot of the drones. One of our capital ship right now for us is a Carrack. The reason why I picked that is our Cutlass Reds have the docking collar, so it can actually dock with the beds, and the red will stabilize. You can use the docking collar with the Carrack, cross-load the casualty into the actual sick bay where you can treat them, and then you can use the drones from the Carrack when you have the 3 pods on the bottom. Hopefully they're talking about putting out fuel pods. You can actually swap out the drones from exploration to repair and rearm and refuel, and you can actually refuel your Cutlass Reds and Cutlass Blacks and go out for the
awesome.
next. Yeah. So like I said, I'm a huge nerd about the stuff. I'm telling you, man. I sit there, I have a whole notebook where I just kind of doodle these things out. Even tactics, and that's one thing. Hopefully, is to start doing some actual practices. I'll put videos out, maybe get some other orgs in, because I really want to spread the idea. I don't want to corner it like a business, because it's the lives of the citizens. No one wants to lose all that stuff. They're talking about Death of the Spaceman and clones. I want to put out all the other orgs. I know you probably have a search and rescue org within your fleet, and so there's some other ones I kind of want to put out there, so we have like a uniformed approach so that we can all kind of backfill and help each other out. I think it'd be kind of cool.
They actually had a meeting before our org op night last night for a search and rescue team. We got a couple of guys that are kind of trying to head that up. They're both military vets. They're both first responders now. So it was really good to see that they're, stepping up and into those roles. And I think they're going to do excellent. building out a search and rescue operation within the org. They had some really good ideas, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, and if they can get a standard operating procedure and that sort of thing put together. That's another thing that I love about this org is, again, we're very independent minded, and I've had people approach me about all sorts of different jobs within the org, and I'm like, yeah, go for it. Write up something, send it to me. I'll share it with the other leaders, and generally speaking, everybody loves what's written up. We may tweak something here or there, but I love that the guys are willing to take on that responsibility and write something up and send it to us, and we can share those ideas back and forth and make it even better.
Oh, completely. Yeah. With a shout out to a previous episode, I want to say it's episode 3 for this podcast. Titan was talking to Artifact, and they were mentioning that Artifact brought up a fantastic point where, there's different people in the game, and you never know what somebody wants to do for their off time, their relaxation. Some people just like being a space trucker. Some people just want to mine. I know my father still plays video games, and he's an EVE veteran. This guy is a miner through and through, so I know he definitely loved that part. And put someone in a role of what they actually want to do, and you'll be amazed at what they want to do. Some people don't want to log in and actually have a job. They want to log in and do what they want to do. So when you have an org like yours, you can actually find those people and you put them in the right roles. That's definitely going to be the key. And Titan mentioned, as far as the size of the org, always plan on about golden rules, like 20% show up for certain orgs as far as participation numbers. So that's kind of what we're going for. We're a pretty small org, but most of the members are pretty dedicated. We all kind of enjoy what we do.
Yeah, we have a much smaller active list, I guess you could say, rather than the total population. So like we're just over 400, but our regular active list is definitely 50 or below. For org op nights on Saturday nights, we've ranged anywhere from 4 guys all the way up to nearly 50 guys at one point. So that will definitely change, and that's one of the things we talked about in a recent meeting as well. Is what do you form the org around? Like who's active, who isn't, and what does that mean for the org? We definitely want a home for anybody that wants to be in the org, but the backbone is going to be those active guys. Those are the ones that are going to be on all the time, that are going to be doing stuff all the time, because they have the time, they have the desire to be there, and you really need to kind of build things around that core group of people and make sure that there's still room for the casuals. I consider myself a casual because I don't get to play that often, but I want to be able to come in and get right into business, but they also want the casual like myself to be able to come in and actually be effective at what we're doing. So whether it's mining or it's cargo running or some military op, we still need to have the basic skills of whatever it is that we're doing in order to contribute to the org in a positive way.
Yeah, too true. Continuity is king. And with that, speaking of the fleet, I know logistics is going to be a big concern, not just with fuel and stuff like that, but also parts. We have to start swapping out components. That's going to get interesting. So with that being said, have y'all standardized, again, without giving too much of your operational security away, have y'all standardized what type of fighters you'll be using, or what type of cargo craft for your logistics or anything like that?
In the true Texas spirit, people can use whatever they want. I mean, if they only have a freelancer, then that's going to be their fighter, if they want to. Now, so the basic idea is that we will have a standing military. We will have guys that are dedicated to that role. That's all they want to do in the game, and those guys will take on that role. Now, if the org needs other folks, pretty much everybody is consigned into the military. So if we require help or assistance, the org members that are normally just running cargo or normally just mining, they may have to step up and help defend the org. They may have to take on a fighter role. Otherwise, they're just going to be miners. They're just going to be cargo runners. That's going to be their role. That's what they're going to be used for. And we'll let the standing military deal with most of the security issues. As far as changing out different components and stuff, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what happens. I mean, personally, for me, I need to build up enough cash flow in the game to make sure I have plenty of extra components on hand. I have a massive fleet personally, and trying to keep on top of that. That's my biggest fear is, am I going to get all these hangar fees that I'm not going to be able to afford? How do I afford the fuel cost to get all my ships where I need them to go eventually? Am I going to spread them out all over the galaxy? How am I going to deal with having this massive, massive fleet personally? And then how are we going to deal with that on an org scale? Because I'm not the only guy that has a massive fleet within our org. So yeah, there was all sorts of talk about, should we tax our members? Should have a little membership fee within the game? Are you going to pay 1,000 UEC every week or something? I'm not a fan of taxing our members for that stuff. I'm more of a fan of take care of your own stuff. I need to earn that money myself. Of course, people have donated money to me in the game, which has been really helpful. So I don't necessarily say I will, say no to that. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, you should earn your own keep, so to speak. Earn your own way to support your own fleet. And I'm not a fan of taxing anybody in the org to be able to, maintain our fleet. If people want to donate money to maintain the fleet as a whole, then I'm okay with that. But I don't want to get into a situation where we have to tax them.
Probably a pretty good call. Yeah, it definitely makes sense. One thing I've seen, I definitely plan on using for our BSAR guys is wages, and letting them know, like, hey, if you need money in the game or something like that, we'll do a contract where it can be something.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Just like you did, I want to say, I think it was last night. Unfortunately, I missed it. I was working on some footage. But you guys did that awesome zero gravity stuff. I mean, it looked like Ender's Game. It was awesome. You guys did that zero gravity stuff, and I noticed y'all use some Cutlass Reds. So that's what I've been like, hey, with some of the bigger orgs, like, yeah, you can use our Cutlass Reds as respawn. We'll just have a pilot and a rescue tech. It'll be 50K or 100K AUEC. God, it's hard to say, for like an hour or 2 hours. And then once that's done, the org will take a certain cut, and then each member participated. Like, hey, were you a crewmate? Yeah, what'd you do? Oh, I was the load master. Oh, I was the flight engineer. I was like, cool, here's your payout. Kind of more of wow, actually, now I think about it, it's kind of like a piracy outfit, with certain shares.
No. I mean, we have guys that do morning mining sessions, like almost every single morning. And they choose to, I think, split the money pretty evenly. But we also have guys that are running fighter escort for cargo runs. And I think they get like 10% of the profits from the cargo run, from the profit of the cargo run. So there's definitely some wages out there, but it's negotiable for the most part. Whether or not we need to have a standardized form of it, I think eventually we will. But I don't feel like in the game right now that there's a stable economy to have a set wage for certain things. I think the percentage is actually probably the best way to go.
Yeah.
Where you get 10% or whatever. I did have a guy in my Discord here in the last week or so. He's paying people to be on his 890 jump, to be security, to be a stripper, to be whatever, and he's paying pretty good wages. I'm like, man, how in the world do you have this much money in game to pay all these people what you're paying them per hour? Because he's paying per hour. Stuff
that's got to be Tony Stark's 890 jump. Jesus.
I mean, really, yeah. Yeah. It's the Great Gatsby. No, yeah. So I agree. There needs to be probably some sort of pay structure out there. We just haven't set anything in stone because of where the game is right now. Like, our org is going to slowly grow, and the structure will also grow with it as more things get added to the game. And we recently moved it over to Gilded, and that was a decision based off of where things are going and how we needed to organize. Guys were all asking about, hey, are we going to have a SAR unit? Hey, are we going to have a mining part of the org? Which we've known for years that we are, but maybe not everybody else has known that. So we decided we needed to take some steps to let people know, hey, there is going to be a place for you in the org. We need to be a little more organized so that where you feel like you're going to be at home, so to speak. I think that's important for any org as it grows. You need to have a plan for how you're going to organize things going forward. And you're talking about how you guys, it sounds like you guys have a lot of great ideas on how you're organizing your SAR unit or some of the other units as well, and that probably comes from your military background, especially having standard operating procedures and uh, how you treat those just anything organizationally speaking. Um,
And
and
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
about to know, I appreciate that, but yeah, that's the point I really wanted. I guess I didn't even know that I really wanted to get across, so we started talking. It's funny that things can evolve from conversation, but I wanted to talk about fleet, and in my head, it's all about ships. What's going to be right here, what's filling this role. When you go into like, I took a lot of courses in naval science. When you go into the actual evolution of a fleet, you have the anti-air, the anti-submarine warfare, all that kind of stuff. But just talking made me realize that while the ships are awesome, and I'm definitely excited about IAE myself, it really is the people. Again, I know it sounds cheesy, I know it sounds trite, but we talked about orgs in the very beginning, and that's exactly the whole point. That it'd be cool to give someone that first time feeling of joining that org, and to be part of an org that they actually enjoy. And the ships can come and go. You can always purchase ships in game and stuff like that, but the people, I think that's going to be the true limiting factor of these fleets. Do you have competent people or people who enjoy being here?
Well, and do they enjoy playing with one another? That's huge. I mean, your org is not going to last if people don't enjoy playing with one another, if they don't get along, or if they don't have some things in common. You guys have a lot of military background. Well, we have a lot of military, law enforcement, and medical personnel in real life that are in our org. A lot of military guys or former military guys. We have guys that worked on military vehicles or aircraft in the org. So they're all, not that far from one another. They can definitely relate to one another, which in some cases in the past have actually gone against us because, some of you military guys can be a little gruff. Understandably so. I've got a lot of friends that are former military, and some of them, every other word's a cuss word. And that can rub people the wrong way at times. But generally speaking, if you can have a group of guys that enjoy playing together, it doesn't matter what ships you have in your fleet. That's where the real experience is going to be, is their interactions together when they're doing different things. It's great to have a massive fleet that can take on just about any other fleet out there. But, if you don't have people that enjoy playing together, and if you don't have people that can actually, lead and organize, then that fleet's nothing. I mean, it does you no good if you don't have a tactician, if you don't have a viable commander that can, actually lead, if you don't have guys who can actually follow orders. You're going to need guys who are really good at scanning. You're going to have picket ships out there that are able to pick up things that are out in front of you. Even for, a big cargo run with whole E's or whole D's, you're going to have all these different elements working together. We have a logistics group in the org. They're going to have to be the ones that are running the cargo ships. We have the security guys who are going to have to be providing that close-in support. We're going to have operations guys to be liaisons, and we may have to have medical guys to be, on alert in case something does go down, to pick up those individuals that had to bail out, or to repair ships, or there's all these different factors that are going to go into one little op. It's super crazy. But if you have the right people in the right job, that are being able to keep things organized, there's a chain of command, things will move smoothly there. And I know you guys know that from military experience, how well that works, and you probably know it better than I do. So I have no misconceptions about that at all. That's why I value a lot of the guys with personal experience in our org, is because they bring over that personal experience. They can make things better than what I possibly can, because I don't have that experience.
Oh, that makes sense, but I definitely always like to put it out there. And while it's great to have that experience, and a lot of us who play the game are veterans, I really enjoy playing with people of all the backgrounds. Like I don't want to be like just a pure, prior military thing. So I wanted that, I'd still be in getting that sweet TRICARE, but that's definitely not what I'm doing. So I enjoy because when you work with people who aren't that, they bring so many ideas where you're like, oh, it has to be exactly this way, follow, our situation mission enemy, that whole thing. And Orm's like, why don't you just do it like this? And you're like, oh, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get locked in with tradition.
Well, see, that's one of the great things too, is that, I've been playing games a long, long time, and I have a different point of view as far as what you can do with inside the game, and why certain procedures that work really good outside the game may not work. So it's good to have people from both sides, like you're saying, with different backgrounds, especially, I have an extensive video game playing background, and I've been within, I guess you could say, military type orgs in the past. I've been in civilian type orgs. I've been in just different types of organizations or clans, if you want to call them that, throughout my gaming history. And video games are definitely not real life. So you definitely need to be able to pull back a little bit or try things a different way than what you would in real life.
And I know you kind of mentioned you guys are going to be using kind of like any kind of ship that people have. And so that kind of begs the question, what is your personal ship? What's going to be your daily driver?
Man, that's a real tough question to answer because I do have so many ships. I think they asked me yesterday, what ship do you not have? That was a lot easier to answer. So that's, I don't know if that just says that how sad I am for investing in a video game like this. But, my daily driver, I want to do everything in the game. I don't have any one thing that I want to do more than others. I really want to try every little field in the game. I have a ship that can do every job that I want to do. So I kind of want to bounce around. I want to try things out. I want to do a few different things. That may be harder to do when you're an org leader, or I may just be right along with some of the other guys doing, the jobs that they like to do. I want to do a little bit of everything. I do like the idea of the 600i executive ship that I have. I like the idea, but the inside's just not what it should be.
I just don't get it. Not that I'm anti-Origin. When I first saw the 600i, I was like, I could kind of see it as like a large command and control ship. It's got good shield, decent guns. It's got it's got almost like a CIC, like a combat bridge, like a backup. I was like, oh, what a great ship. But I was like, I just don't get it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's luxury. It's all it is. But it should be luxury and exploration. Which they have the exploration version, but it's not any different really than the luxury version. They just have a few different things in a room. There's not enough that makes it stand apart from other ships. Why would I want to choose a 600i over a Connie or over even a Carrack or why would I want to choose that ship? I mean, right now it's got the capability of having some pretty devastating shields and decent guns, but I mean, other than that, it doesn't have a lot going for it.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
I mean, I love the Javelin too, but if I'm flying solo, that's not going to be a viable candidate for my everyday flyer,
Yeah,
I mean,
if you go that to a pirate crew,
I will probably, if I'm just going from one place to another, I'll probably have a ship that's dedicated to that. I don't know what ship that's going to be right offhand. It could be a Pisces that's rigged for stealth, just so I can get in under the radar. And it has great, quantum jumping ability. But personally, I'm probably, going to be using a ship that's got longer range jump capability, wormhole system to system capability, which would be more like a Carrack or an Idris. I can see an Idris being a everyday flyer if I've got the crew to fill it out, whether it NPC or human. Because people aren't going to mess with you too much when you're in Idris, and it should have long range capability. You can also haul cargo, so it has a lot of different functionality that I feel like I could definitely use. On the other hand, the Kraken is in the same boat. You can support quite a few ships, and you can carry quite a few cargo, It's even got the Dragonfly Bay, or you could turn it into the shopping mall and just let everybody come to you and make sure you have plenty of security. So I'm really
that is
torn.
the key. Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a wild universe out there.
Yes. Now, the first ship that I wanted, that I thought that was going to be my everyday driver, that's going to be the ship that I was going to live and die in the verse, was the Banu Merchantman, because of its versatility. But as my ship's grown, so have my taste, and it's really hard to choose one.
No, I totally get it. I actually kind of like your approach as far as the fleet, about all vessels kind of coming in, and whatever you happen to have, we'll do it. And usually in some of my videos, I always kind of throw in history, because like you, I'm kind of a history nerd myself, especially with Texas history. And I feel not enough people know about the Battle of Campeche, where it was right after we became our own country. And we had two sloops, and these are traditional, for some of the listeners out there, these are traditional sloops, sail, rig, all that kind of stuff. They went over to help one of the other Mexican states kind of rebel. And at the time, Mexico had money, so they bought a full ironclad ship from the Royal Navy, which was crewed by specialist civilians, which are basically Royal Navy sailors. And so basically the British came over with the Mexican flag, and our two ships disobeyed orders, sailed over there, and fought it. In the history books, it's a draw, but all Texans know that, yeah, two of our sloops, just random sloops, a bunch of unpaid random Texas volunteers, beat a greater ship crewed by probably the greatest Navy crew, the most experienced in the world. So it's kind of a cool little moniker back to Texas.
And Texans have always been on the forefront of, I guess, epic stories in military history and out of military history. So it's very colorful what our state has done through the years and the people of it. And I like to think that Texans definitely go above and beyond, when called upon. They are the ones who are leading the battle, who are, doing the impossible, like two sloops taking on an ironclad. And, I love the history of the Texas Navy, which I don't have a whole lot of background researching, but from what I do know of it, it was pretty awesome for what we had, which was not a lot.
Yeah, basically almost bankrupted us. But
yeah.
Do you have what future gameplay implements, these coming out patches, is really going to influence your organization the most? Like, what is your organization most looking forward to?
So short term, I think the medical gameplay, which should come out this next year, is going to be huge, because Cuddy Reds are no longer going to be respawn points, most likely. You're going to have to deal with hospitals on planets or facilities. Hopefully that also means we'll get the Apollo or even the Endeavor Hope. So that brings in medical gameplay of all kinds, whether it's field dressings or surgery to help heal players. So that short run, that's the big mechanic that we're looking forward to. Long run, I think it's going to be essential when they bring in other systems, being able to do cargo runs and mining ops, and being able to transfer all that material across systems will be huge, because that's one of the big things our org is wanting to do. Is we don't want to just have a good military. We want to rule industry. Texas has the 15th largest economy in the world if you compare it to countries out there, and we don't want to be any different in game. We want to have a huge economy within our org. So we need to be able to dominate all forms of industry, whether it's cargo hauling or mining or whatever it is that we're choosing to do, or we have people doing. We want to be the force to be reckoned with in those fields.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'm chomping at the bit for a medical gameplay. And what I'm really hoping is that some of those higher tier beds will take blades, so that'll really force people. You can't use a blade for everything. You can only fit so many with your computers. And again, that's very selfish, because that makes my organization useful to other people.
No, I agree with that. And I'm totally against this whole cloning idea, by the way. I don't know what your take is on it, but I think it's silly. I don't think there's any lore for it in the game right now. I would have preferred Handwavium. The stranger picked you up and carried you to a hospital, or something along those lines over clones. Because there's no lore for it in the game.
I know that wasn't the original thing. Like I said, I'm kind of a big Chris Roberts fan. I mean, all of his work from the Wing Commander games to some of his movies like Lord of War.
Me
I'm kind of a fan. That's never been his take, and I know hopefully I don't set too many listeners. I'm sorry, guys. I know just like Titan himself, there's a lot of Eve people out there, my own father included. I never really could get into it. I liked it as a concept, just wasn't really my thing. And I think that's kind of where it's coming from, because you have a large exodus from Eve, and a lot of them are moving to Star Citizen. So that's
true. And Eve has that big cloning, yeah. I still, it doesn't make sense to me. I put something in that makes sense, something that has some lore to it. They have not mentioned cloning anywhere as far as I can remember in any of the lore posts or anything.
That would be a big thing they talk about in New Babbage, and not to get too political with the in-game politics, of course, but when they're talking about who's going to be the next Imperator, I did not like the New Babbage. She's like, yeah, AI is going to be a great idea. I was like, there's like 20 sci-fi movies that prove that this is not a good idea.
Exactly.
I think he would have talked about cloning if it was a thing. I get it. Voting for her, you get better blades. I can understand that, but I don't want AI, and I definitely don't want clones. And sci-fi for that.
And we talk about taxing the org. Well, what about actual taxes in game? I mean, what's that going to do in the economy for taxing? I mean, they're already talking about having insurance premiums and hangar fees and stuff like that. Are taxes going to go through the roof because we got somebody that needs to fund all these technological research? I mean, what's that going to bring? I was a Costigan fan because I felt for our org, it was perfect because he believed in everyday people, having their own militias and growing that whole initiative, and that was right up our org alley. That gives us a reason to exist.
Shipping guilds too. He was endorsed by shipping guilds. That's why our organization kind of backed him as well.
Yeah, it was just, it made sense for us because we're trying to kind of break away from the UEE, but we're trying to do it within the walls of the UEE, so to speak. Costigan made more sense for us. Now I didn't tell anybody how to vote because I don't believe in doing that. But as an org, I think our politics more aligned with Costigan, not Allison. I think Allison's definitely going to bring some issues, which is great for gameplay, possibly. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine one of your AI blades turning on you?
I was telling people, I was like, I guarantee you there's already built missions for that. You go to land at Port Olisar, and Port Olisar is going to be taken over by a hostile AI. You have to somehow, go underneath all different turrets, land, and, hit certain things. The gameplay built itself, so I get it.
I think, though, that they had gameplay ideas for all of the candidates. I mean, you had some of the senators that were obviously corrupt. Well, you'd be rooting out corruption throughout all the empire. There have been missions to do that. You had the one that wanted Terra to be the capital. Well, you could probably have a lot of missions based on that, or maybe there's a civil war. Yeah. So
I think it would have been straight up PvE with the Vandal. You'd have saw them for the outside threat they are, which is, me and Titan were like, yeah, that's what we want. But right. It'd be a lot of PvE of it. You'd have king ships coming in and just wrecking fleets.
That would be so much fun to watch. I hope that Operation Pitchfork actually happens and we can participate in it and just have a grand time taking on the Vandal. I think that'll be awesome.
Well, like I said, this has been great. We got a lot of good information. It was cool to find out more about the Texas Space Navy or the organization Texas. Do you have any parting shots you kind of want to put out there, or any? Where's the best place for some of the listeners who are interested to find more about your organization?
It's Texas Space Navy on YouTube. You can also go to TexasSpaceNavy.com or TexasNavy.space. Both of those sites are ours, and we're running it. And then we also have Texas Space Navy on Discord and Gilded, and then Texas on the CIG website. It has a lot of our information there, but I would just say join us on Discord, join us in Gilded. There's almost always somebody playing in game, and we love helping other people. We love bringing in new folks. Everybody's real friendly. It's a great org, and a lot of great people in it, and they love hanging out with people. They love playing with people. It's a great time.
Yeah, not enough people know that Tejas really does mean friendship. It's where
that's right.
Derives from.
It's the old Caddo Indian name.
Oh yeah, and this is absolutely fantastic. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully some joint operations.
Hey, I do want to say,
with your guys.
I do want to say thank you to you and your guys for the service you've given this country. I really do appreciate that. I don't think it's said enough. Thank you guys for the sacrifices you made so that I could be playing video games and making YouTube, channels and doing the stuff that I do. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys.
Oh, hey, honestly, I appreciate it. It's because of the support of people we get back home is what makes doing stuff over there a lot easier. And most veterans, I know, can't speak for all of them, but a lot of us look at ourselves like the old, USS Texas, that old dreadnought. We may still be kind of resting now, but what we did, speaks in history. We still sit there kind of formidable as well. We're still in our prime if we're ever needed. So I actually grew up real close to the USS Texas. So that was kind of a soft spot for me.
Yeah, I love going down and seeing the Texas and the San Jacinto Monument. That's two of my favorite places to be in Texas.
Well, all right. So thanks everybody for listening. If you like this kind of content, feel free to like and subscribe. There's multiple different channels. You have the Badlands Nation podcast. You have myself. I do, Now Hear Me Out, where I do theory hammering on ships. I talk about search and rescue. And of course, now there's also TexasSpaceNavy. Go check them out as well. Thanks so much and have a great day, my dog.
Thank you. Once again, thank you for watching the video. Be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments down below if you like the podcast format, if you'd like to see me do a few more. I'm Mud Dog with the Texas Space Navy, and I'll see you out in the verse.